she hasn't even stepped onto the court yet. Her racket hasn't touched a single ball in Toronto. And already Alex Eala has done what only Serena Williams has achieved in the last 20 years. The tickets are gone, the stadium is full, and a nation that just watched her make history in Washington is now ready to watch her do it all over again. She hasn't even stepped onto the court yet. Her racket hasn't touched a single ball in Toronto. And already, Alex Eala has done what only one other player in the last 2 decades has achieved. The tickets are gone. The stadium is full, and a nation that just watched her make history in Washington is now ready to watch her do it all over again. When tournament organizers at the National Bank Open announced that Eala's opening match in Toronto, scheduled for Wednesday night, was completely sold out, the tennis world took notice. According to Tennis Connected, a source with deep knowledge of the tournament's ticketing data confirmed something remarkable. Wednesday night is sold out in Toronto because of Alex Eala. From reliable sources, I can tell you that only Serena has done that in the last 20 years.
Let that sink in.
Not Roger Federer, not Rafael Nadal, not Novak Djokovic. The 3 greatest men's players in the history of the sport. Combined, they hold 66 Grand Slam singles titles. Never sold out an opening Wednesday night session in Toronto. Serena Williams, the 23-time Grand Slam champion and arguably the greatest player of all time, was the only one who had achieved this feat until now. Serena's farewell tour in Toronto in 2022 was a moment etched in tennis history. When she announced her retirement in a Vogue article, ticket sales for her second-round match boomed and the stadium packed with 12,500 spectators. The tournament even set up an outdoor viewing area for another 5,000 people who couldn't get in. It was an emotional farewell. A city saying goodbye to a legend. It was a lot of emotions, Serena said after her match. Obviously, I love playing here. I've always loved playing here. Now, just 4 years later, a 21-year-old from Manila has matched that feat. Not because she's retiring. Not because she's saying goodbye. But because she has become a phenomenon that fans simply cannot miss. The significance of this achievement cannot be overstated. The National Bank Open is a WTA 1000 event, one of the most prestigious tournaments on the tour. The first round of a Masters 1000 event is often low-key. It falls on a weekday, the stars are spread across the draw, and the crowds are typically smaller. With no roof at Sobeys Stadium, fans also want to avoid the heat. For Eala to sell out a weekday crowd during the early stages of the tournament, before she's even won a match, is a testament to her drawing power. This isn't the first time Eala's popularity has caught organizers off guard. At the Australian Open earlier this year, tournament organizers placed her first-round match on an outside court with limited capacity. The result? Huge queues of fans formed at Melbourne Park, desperate to watch the match on the screens. Organizers quickly admitted they had miscalculated the demand and apologized. In Dubai, Jessica Pegula could hear Eala's fans from her hotel room because the courts were so close. What makes this phenomenon so remarkable is that Eala has achieved this level of popularity while still climbing the ranks. She's currently ranked 28th in the world, an achievement in itself, but not yet in the top 10. She's not a Grand Slam champion. She's not a former world number 1. She's a 21-year-old from a country that had never produced a tennis star of this magnitude. And yet, she's outselling the big 3. At the Washington Open, Eala's matches felt like home games. The Filipino community packed the stands, waving flags and chanting her name. Tournament chairman Mark Ein revealed that 80% of ticket inquiries were about Eala. Now, that same phenomenon has crossed the border into Canada. Eala's Toronto debut is sold out before she even arrives. And the only other player to achieve that in the last 20 years is Serena Williams herself. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the Alex Eala phenomenon, nothing will. The next chapter, her match against Alicia Parks, will be played in front of a capacity crowd. The pressure will be immense. But if Eala has proven anything this year, it's that she thrives on pressure. And Toronto is about to find out why the world is watching. The moment Alex Eala's name appeared on the National Bank Open entry list, something shifted in Toronto. A community of over 250,000 Filipinos across the Greater Toronto Area suddenly had a reason to fill Sobe Stadium like never before. And they did exactly that. This is the power of the Filipino diaspora. Spread across the globe in communities that remain fiercely connected to their homeland, they have become Eala's unofficial traveling fan base. In Toronto, that community is massive. The GTA is home to 250,000 individuals of Filipino descent, representing 62% of the total Filipino-Canadian population across the country. In Ontario alone, the Filipino-Canadian population is estimated at 363,250. With the Sobe Stadium located within driving distance for many, a perfect storm of support was about to descend on the tournament. But this wasn't just a local community showing up. The Alex Mania that had swept Washington had crossed the border. Just as Eala's supporters had packed the stands in Washington, waving Philippine flags and turning the William H.G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center into a home away from home, they were now preparing to do the same in Toronto. These are the faces of a diaspora that has found its hero. Nurses from Birmingham, engineers from Berlin, students from Melbourne, families from Toronto. Wherever Eala plays, they appear. A flag appears in the stands, then another, then chants in Tagalog. It has become a phenomenon that even seasoned tennis observers have called next level. Mary Jo Fernandez, the former professional and ESPN commentator, described it perfectly. She brings a whole new demographic and crowd to watch our sport. And she's right. Tennis has always been a sport of tradition, of quiet applause, of polite spectators. Eala's matches are something else entirely. They are celebrations, they are rallies. They are a community coming together to witness history. The devotion of this fan base was already legendary. At the Australian Open, huge queues of fans formed at Melbourne Park, desperate to watch Eala's first-round match on outside courts with limited capacity. Tournament organizers were quick to admit they had miscalculated the demand. In Dubai, Jessica Pegula could hear Eala's fans from her hotel room because the courts were so close. At Wimbledon, Eala was surprised to find a crowd made up largely of Filipino supporters, despite the difficulty of obtaining tickets. And now, Toronto was about to experience the same phenomenon. The tickets were gone. The stadium would be packed. And the chants of Eala! Eala would echo through the Canadian night. But what makes this support so powerful isn't just the numbers. It's the meaning behind it. For a diaspora that has often felt invisible, Eala's success is a validation. It's proof that they belong on the world stage. It's a connection to a homeland that many have never visited, but still call home. I think the question should be rephrased as, what's it like to be Filipino? Eala famously said after a victory in Washington. Those words captured everything. She could have talked about her own journey. Instead, she turned the spotlight on her countrymen, on the community that had traveled across the country and across the world to support her. And in Toronto, that community was about to show the world what Alex Mania really means. The celebration had barely begun, the tears were still drying, and already, Alex Eala was being forced to shift her focus from triumph to survival. This is the brutal reality of professional tennis. There is no time to savor a championship, no moment to let the magnitude of history sink in. The tour keeps moving, and the calendar waits for no one. For Eala, the math is unforgiving. The DC Open final began on Sunday, August 2, but was suspended twice due to heavy rain and lightning in Washington, D.C. She eventually completed her historic 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 victory over Jessica Pegula on Monday afternoon local time. But her schedule at the National Bank Open in Toronto was already set. She was seeded 25th in the WTA 1000 event and scheduled to open her campaign in the second round on Wednesday night, August 5. That gave the 21-year-old Filipina barely more than 24 hours between the conclusion of the Washington final and her opening match in Toronto, leaving little time for recovery, travel, and preparation. The clock is ticking. The math is brutal. If the final resumed at noon Monday and went the distance, Eala could have been on court until mid-afternoon. Then she faced a flight to Toronto, approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. Time zone differences, recovery, practice, and media obligations. By the time she stepped onto the court in Canada, she would have had barely enough time to catch her breath. The physical toll is immense. Eala had played 5 matches in 5 days in Washington, including a 1-hour and 45-minute final that stretched across 2 days. She had beaten 4 champions in 4 days, each victory more grueling than the last. Her body had been pushed to its limits, and now she had to do it all over again. But here's what makes Eala different. She doesn't make excuses. She doesn't complain about the schedule. She embraces it. So many takeaways from this tournament, Eala said after her championship victory. I think I ended the tournament in better shape than I started. Each match I kept improving and kept learning things about myself, so it definitely gives me a lot of confidence. The mental grind. The mental toll is arguably more significant than the physical. Eala had just experienced the highest high of her career, her first WTA title, her first WTA 500 trophy, a career high ranking of number 20 in the world. She had conquered the toughest draw imaginable, beating Olympic gold medalists, defending champions, world number 10s, 4-time Grand Slam winners, and the world number 3. But the tennis tour doesn't stop. And Eala knows that the momentum she built in Washington can either carry her forward or become a burden. I was so nervous and I kind of just blacked out, Eala recalled after the championship point. Everything just came rushing to me. I was really nervous before the last couple of points, and I was really trying to channel those nerves into hitting good balls and moving my feet. So, yeah, a huge burst of emotions. Now she had to find that emotional state again. She had to reset, recharge, and refocus for another tournament, another opponent. Another opportunity to prove that her Washington triumph was not a one-time miracle. It was the beginning of something much bigger. The context of the Canadian Open, the National Bank Open, is a WTA 1000 event, the highest level of tournament outside the Grand Slams. With the champion earning 1,000 ranking points, it's a tournament that can define a season. The field is stacked with the best players in the world, and the competition is relentless. Eala's draw presented immediate challenges. Her first opponent in the second round would be American Alicia Parks, a player who had beaten her in the first round of the Australian Open just 7 months ago, 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. Much had changed since then. Eala had surged from number 49 to a career-high number 20, while Parks had improved from number 99 to number 71. But the memory of that loss, and the desire for revenge, would be a powerful motivator. But even if Eala got past Parks, the road ahead was treacherous. She was in the bottom half of the draw, where she could face reigning Wimbledon champion and 6th seed Linda Noskova, number 21 Marie Buskova, no. 12 Belinda Bencic, qualifier Sloane Stevens, and her good friend number 13 Iva Jovic. A possible third-round clash with Noskova, who had beaten Eala in both their previous meetings this year, including at Indian Wells, loomed large. The bigger picture, despite the grueling turnaround, Eala's schedule is a testament to her rising status in the tennis world. Being seated 25th in a WTA 1000 event means she has arrived among the elite. Receiving a first-round bye means she is recognized as a player who deserves a break in the draw. And the fact that her opening match in Toronto sold out before she even arrived means she is now one of the biggest draws on the tour. The next stop after Toronto is the Cincinnati Open, another WTA 1000 event that runs from August 13 to 23. And then, the crown jewel of the North American hardcourt swing, the US Open, scheduled from August 30 to September 13. There is no rest for the weary. But Alex Eala has never been one to complain. She has always been one to compete. The amount of effort you have to put in just to stay with these tough players is incredible, Eala had said after her victory over Svitolina. There are so many things I've learned about what it takes to stay at this level and handle these tough players. But I'm just at the beginning of this long process, and I'm really excited for what's ahead. Now that process continues in Toronto. The celebration is over. The grind begins, and Alex Eala is ready. 7 months. That's how long Alex Eala has been waiting for this moment. 7 months since she walked off the court at Melbourne Park, her head hanging, having just suffered a heartbreaking defeat in the first round of the Australian Open. 7 months since she watched Alicia Parks celebrate a victory that should have been hers. 7 months of growth, improvement, and an unshakable belief that she would get another chance. The moment has arrived. Eala's opening opponent at the National Bank Open in Toronto is none other than Alicia Parks, the same American who defeated her in the first round of the Australian Open last January. The scoreline that day was brutal, 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. Eala had been bajled in the first set, a humiliation that would have broken lesser players. But she fought back, won the second set, and pushed the third to its limit before ultimately falling short. That match was a turning point in Eala's career. It wasn't the loss that defined her. It was what she learned from it. Alicia Parks is a player of immense power. She is known for her killer serves, holding a record of 129 miles per hour that she set in the 2021 U.S. Open, matching the mark set by Venus Williams in 2007. At 6'1", she towers over Eala's 5'9" frame. Her game is built on raw power, the kind that can blow any opponent off the court when she's on. But much has changed since that January meeting. Eala has surged from number 49 at the time to a career-high number 20 this week. She has won her first WTA title, a WTA 500 trophy in Washington. She has beaten Olympic gold medalists, defending champions, world number 10s, 4-time Grand Slam champions, and the world number 3. Parks has also improved, climbing from number 99 to number 71. But the gap between them has grown, and it's Eala who has done the growing. The match in Toronto is more than just a chance for revenge. It's a test of how far Eala has come. Can she handle the power of Parks, who has been preparing for this matchup with her own set of weapons? Her serve remains one of the most dangerous on tour. If it's firing, she can beat anyone. But Eala's game has evolved significantly since Melbourne. Her variety, her tactical intelligence, and her ability to stay composed under pressure have all improved. As the tournament chairman in Washington noted, her game is about taking away time and cutting the court. She doesn't need to overpower opponents, she outsmarts them. And the crowd will be firmly behind her. The Toronto Filipino community has already sold out the night session. She will have a home court advantage that Parks has never experienced. The chants of Eala, Eala will echo through Sobeys Stadium, lifting the Filipina and intimidating her opponent. Beyond Parks, the road ahead is treacherous. Eala is in the lower half of the draw, which includes reigning Wimbledon champion and 6th seed Linda Noskova, number 21 Marie Buskova, no. 12 Belinda Bencic qualifier Sloane Stephens, and her good friend number 13 Iva Jovic. A possible third-round clash with Noskova, who has beaten Eala in both their previous meetings this year, including at Indian Wells, looms large. But Eala isn't looking ahead. She knows that she can't afford to overlook Parks. The American has beaten her before and will be hungry to do it again. Fresh off WTA title, Eala faces bigger test in Toronto, the Manila Bulletin wrote, capturing the challenge ahead. The redemption match is here. Alicia Parks stands in her way, and Alex Eala is ready to prove that the loss in Melbourne was just a chapter, not the end of the story. What happens when a player who has already conquered the best in the world faces the one opponent who beat her when it mattered most? What happens when a crowd of thousands, a nation of millions, and a diaspora that spans the globe are all watching? We're about to find out. The phenomenon has officially crossed international borders. And what was once a national obsession in the Philippines has now become a global box office sensation that is rewriting the rules of tennis fandom. The numbers are staggering. According to Tennis Connected, a source with deep knowledge of the National Bank Open's ticketing data confirmed something truly extraordinary. Wednesday night is sold out in Toronto because of Alexandra Eala. From reliable sources, I can tell you that only Serena has done that in the last 20 years. Think about that for a moment. Roger Federer never did it. Rafael Nadal never did it. Novak Djokovic never did it. The 3 greatest men's players in tennis history, with a combined 66 Grand Slam singles titles between them, never sold out an opening Wednesday night session in Toronto. Serena Williams, the 23-time Grand Slam champion, was the only player to achieve this feat. Until now. The significance of this achievement cannot be overstated. The National Bank Open is a WTA 1000 event, one of the most prestigious tournaments on the tour. The first round of a Masters 1000 event is often low-key. It falls on a weekday, the stars are scattered across the draw, and the crowds are typically smaller. With no roof at Sobeys Stadium, fans also want to avoid the oppressive summer heat. For Eala to sell out a weekday crowd during the early stages of the tournament, before she's even won a match in Toronto, is a testament to her extraordinary drawing power. But this isn't a new phenomenon. It's been building for months. At the Australian Open in January, tournament organizers made a critical miscalculation. They placed Eala's first-round match on Court 6, a small outside court with a capacity of just 1,500 spectators. What followed was chaos. Thousands of Filipino fans descended on Melbourne Park, creating a queue that stretched several hundred yards through the grounds, a logjam that the Australian Open had never seen before. Fans stood for hours trying to catch a glimpse of Eala, and many were turned away when security started clearing the area. Even Martina Navratilova criticized the decision, saying, "The organizers need to keep more in mind where the players are from and what the actual fan base is here." The demand was so overwhelming that Eala's pre-tournament news conference was watched online by 171,000 people, dwarfing the numbers for Carlos Alcaraz, 29,000, Coco Gauff, 29,000, and Aryna Sabalenka, 9,000. At just 20 years old, Eala had become the most popular player at the Australian Open, overshadowing the sport's biggest names. In Dubai, Jessica Pegula could hear Eala's fans from her hotel room because the courts were so close. At Wimbledon, Eala was surprised to find a crowd made up largely of Filipino supporters, despite the difficulty of obtaining tickets. In Washington, tournament chairman Markine revealed that 80% of ticket inquiries, if not more, were about Alex Eala.
What makes this phenomenon so remarkable is that Eala has achieved this level of popularity while still climbing the ranks.
She's currently ranked 20th in the world, an achievement in itself, but not yet in the top 10. She's not a Grand Slam champion. She's not a former world number one. She's a 21-year-old from a country that had never produced a tennis star of this magnitude. And yet, she's outselling the big three. This is a movement within tennis that did not exist a few years ago, said former world number one Andy Roddick. She's attracting more tennis fans in a very committed and passionate way. Mary Jo Fernandez, the former professional and ESPN commentator, put it simply.
She brings a whole new demographic and crowd to watch our sport. So what drives this phenomenon?
It's not just about tennis. Eala has become a symbol of Filipino pride, a gathering point for a diaspora that spans the globe. She always carries the flag and the country proudly. That's something which resonates with everyone, said Amy V, a Filipina who traveled from Sydney specifically to watch Eala at the Australian Open. She's becoming a national hero. Everyone is starting to stop what they're doing and tune in to watch her matches. She dominates the sports news too. When asked what it felt like to be so popular around the world, Eala didn't talk about herself. She said, "I think the question should be rephrased as, what's it like to be Filipino?" Then she added two words that have become her signature. Salamat. Mga kababayan, that moment captured everything. She could have talked about her hard work. She could have talked about her sacrifices. Instead, she turned the spotlight on her countrymen, on the community that had traveled across the country and across the world to support her. And in Toronto, that community is about to show the world what Alex Mania really means. The Sobeys Stadium holds 12,500 spectators. Combined with the 250,000 Filipinos across the Greater Toronto area, the atmosphere will be electric. We'll be ready. The chants of Eala will echo through the night, and Alex Eala will step onto the court in front of a sold-out crowd, something only Serena Williams had achieved in the last 2 decades. The phenomenon has crossed borders. Alex Mania has arrived in Canada, and the world is watching to see what happens next. Alex Eala has done what only Serena Williams has achieved in the last 2 decades. Her opening match at the National Bank Open in Toronto is completely sold out. a feat that even Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic never accomplished. The phenomenon that began in Australia, grew in Dubai, exploded in Washington, and has now crossed into Canada. Alex Mania is real, and the world is watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you the biggest stories in tennis, drama, and emotion every single week. Don't miss what happens next.